Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great show for you today. A great guest, a repeat guest. She actually once tried to take over my podcast, but I had to put the kibosh on that one. But I'm glad to have her back. It's been a while. We're going to bring her on in just a moment. Today's podcast is brought to you by Queen Bean Coffee. She is a big supporter of ours, a sponsor of the Ordinary Marathon. I can always count on her to get involved, especially when charity's involved. And I got to tell you, I know I talk about Dunkin' on the Ordinary Daily, and yeah, I wake up and I roll out of bed, and part of my routine is just to get outside and get moving, and that's kind of why I go to Dunkin'. It's just convenient. But I tell you, upstairs, the only thing I have near my Keurig is our Q cups, which is what she sells. I buy boxes of them, and I keep myself stocked, and really, I go to Dunkin' to get out of my house, but when I really want coffee and I'm home by myself, the only thing I have is Queen Bean Coffee. You should check her out, thequeenbean.com, and you can find, obviously, all her links on the Ordinary Marathon pages as well, since she's a sponsor, and really just a wonderfully generous and charitable organization, too. I love helping out small business. It just makes me feel good about the show, and especially when there's really kind and generous people on the other end. I don't know, it feels worthy, and I like supporting them. So, as always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. We got our daily podcasts, which I know have been running a little bit longer lately. Been chit-chatty a little bit more than I expected to. But it's all good. And our long-form podcasts, the ones that are mostly interviews, we had... who do we have? Ben Hinton was on at the last podcast. I'm struggling here because I actually just interviewed Ben about 10 minutes ago, but we're going to space these podcasts out about, a couple days. So Melissa's going to be on. I'll probably get this one out over the weekend. I'm telling you now as if you're going to anticipate it when you're not going to be able to know until I actually put it out. Anyway, you can also find our YouTube channel. It's called Ordinary Marathoner. And you can find that and subscribe to it if you'd like. It's I think I put the call out for more subscribers last week, and like 15 of you guys answered. Thank God! Wow, that was just really cool. Really good support. Made myself look cool in my daughter's eyes. I think our next step is 100. We got to get to 100. Once we get to 100, think about how cool I'll be then. I'll be just the amazing dad. Looking forward to that. But, we've been putting the audio of our long-form podcast on there. If you guys want to see the daily, let me know, and I'll work on getting those up there as well. I don't want to inundate the page with a whole bunch of podcasts when we're also doing the video series. Stephanie's Couch to 5K is going strong. We've been putting together her week 4. She's doing really well so far. She did miss one workout, and she's going to have to work that in. We're going to have to explain that one. I'm looking forward to how she does that. But, it's just another productive thing, and if any of you guys are out there and you're wondering how to get started, the Couch to 5K is the way to go. You can follow her progress on the Mom's Miles and Baby Smiles series that we've been doing on YouTube. We also got our Facebook group, discussion group. It's a closed group called Ordinary Marathoners. You got to add yourself to it. We'll put you right through. It's cool because you can post your runs, and if you're running every day, if you're running often, you're working out often, and you want a place to kind of just throw your workouts. A lot of really positive and supportive people over there on that page. A lot of people do it, and it doesn't bother your non-running friends who sit there and they judge you every day. And there Scott goes again, running again. He's doing it every day. Does he have to post it every day? Well, yeah, you go to Ordinary Marathoners and you post it there. It's a safe space. It's a safe space for you to not, make your friends angry at you and still be able to post your runs. Anyway, also got our Twitter account at Ord Marathoner. That's ORD Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. We'll get the conversation going on over there. All right, let's bring in our guest. I don't even know how to introduce you anymore. So I'm just gonna, I could all the things that you've done. The Run Heifer Run, the new podcast, the Run for Your Life podcast that you're doing. What else is the Jen? Do we still talk about the Jenny Craig?
We can still talk about the Jenny Craig a little bit.
Jenny
sure.
Craig ambassador,
Ish.
Former
alumni. We'll put alumni.
Jenny Craig alumni. Melissa Kahn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me back to our podcast, which I've missed tremendously. It is good to be. I feel like Al Roker after he left the Today Show to have his surgery, and then he came back. Let's see what's going on around the country.
In your neck of the woods.
What's happening in your neck of the woods? Yeah, exactly.
I just totally stomped all over your line there.
You ruined it for me. I ruined it for myself. I am so glad to be back. How is it going, Scotty?
It's going well, but it's you can't hijack my podcast and start asking me the questions right away.
Damn.
It's funny. I think I actually went back. What we tried to do last year was we were going to have you host my podcast. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And that would have been great practice for you now that you have a podcast of your own.
Wow. It's it's been a learning process, that's for sure. It's something that you and I talked about, and I thought, oh man, it would be really cool to host a podcast. And a lot of the people from Run Heifer Run said, yeah, you should totally do that. But it's overwhelming. I'm kind of technologically speaking, I'm still stuck in 1997. So I just got a wireless keyboard and I couldn't figure out where the wire went. So special like that. So
that's what I missed about you. That was a good one.
Thank you. I am still looking like there's got to be a hole here somewhere.
Where does it plug this in?
How does it work? Like, how do it work? And, so finally I just took the plunge. I've known Shannon, my co-host, for ages and ages. She was always a Twitter friend, very inspirational. And we were both going through together some life difficulties, and we bonded over that. And we said, you know what? Together, combined, we kind of have a good synergy, almost as good as your synergy with me. So you still need me, I'm just saying.
I do. You're back. That's why you're back.
I am back. And so we created this podcast called Run for Your Life. And what we decided to do was celebrate ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And that's why we actually recently recorded an episode with you, because when we think of ordinary, we think of you.
No one is more ordinary.
You are so ordinary. So that's been really exciting. It's been a big learning curve. And I have this super big Yeti microphone. I feel like Rush Limbaugh. And I constantly make jokes about it. And my kids are like, Mom, you're really not famous, so could you just stop and make us a sandwich? And I'm like, hang on, I'm recording a message. I've tried to feel cool about it, but really it's been a lot of fun. We've interviewed Bart Yasso and some really amazing people, including yourself, just people who have taken their lives and said, you know what, I want to squeeze the life out of it. I want to accomplish my dreams. And it's been a lot of fun. And we have, a bunch of people lined up to still interview yet. We've got one that we're recording tonight. And it's been a fun ride. I finally figured out why you like podcasting so much.
Yeah, you meet a lot of great people. There's only I don't know. I think I've done 100. This is 134, 135, something like that. And there's probably a handful of people who are like, I'm probably not going to invite that guy back. But obviously you're not on that list.
Well, I paid my way in to be. I'm like a 5 peat by now, but I paid my way in. Last night we recorded with Noel Payne. Who just had Noel. Yeah, great guy. We just had so much fun, and he's super hilarious, and he took my jokes well, and and he told me he would send me an autographed copy of his book, which I'm going to hold him to.
Yeah, you better be on that.
So. Yeah, I know, right? He had a lot of good things to say about people, and it's just a really positive guy. So it's just like you said, you meet a lot of really cool people, and it's just a lot of fun. Get the word out there and keep people moving. People listen to this when they're running, and it's hopefully it's a good listen, and they enjoy the entertainment. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't listen to podcasts, even my own. I don't.
Yeah.
So I can't even tell you if you're good or not. But I'm assuming that you're awesome. I would say probably second best running podcast
in the world.
If I had to rank them, you'd be second, just below this one. That's where you'd rank.
But 1.5.
No, you said you found Shannon on Twitter. Was this like? Have you guys been friends for a long time? Did you know her before Twitter? Was it? What made you two just click to the point where you're like, oh, let's do a podcast?
Yeah, we decided to be BFFs. We did a pinky swear. What happened is she and I had been following each other on Twitter for a while, and I believe, we both sensed. I recently went through a divorce, and she's going through a divorce, and some of the posts that we would make just kind of alluded to, just some unhappy things going on and how we were struggling. And so we reached out to each other. I honestly don't remember who reached out first, and we said, you know what? Let's talk. And we ended up talking a whole bunch, realizing that that we both have. She's big into fitness, and I at the time was running a lot, and she runs a fitness event planning company, and she said, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but my following was a little bit bigger than hers, and so my reach was just a little bit more worldwide and greater. And we both decided, you know what, we should become partners and do a podcast, because we had the same demographic that we were both trying to speak to, and the same message that even though things have happened in your life that have tried to hold you back from running or to hold you back from positivity, we have to keep moving forward. We have to keep running for our lives. And so we use running as a metaphor a lot. And some of the people that we've interviewed, they're not even runners, but most of them have been. But everybody buys into that whole metaphorical, running is life, in terms of one step in front of the other, and just keep moving forward, peace in every step. And so we connected, and we really just hit it off. She's very intellectual behind that cute little curly hair face, and she takes my jokes well. She puts up with me. She rolls her eyes a lot, tells me I talk too much, and we generally we just have a symbiotic relationship where we work well with each other. We joke together, and she has this odd addiction to those ketchup tomato chips that they eat in Canada. Right. She keeps telling me she's going to send them to me. I don't believe these exist. I think they're fictional.
I've seen them. They're pretty good. But what was the lettuce? The watercress?
Watercress, yeah. So what happens is, in our podcast, I forget who our first guest was, but I asked them, like, I like to be irreverent. I refer to us as, like, she's the intellectual Beavis and I'm just the butthead. And so I ask every single guest, I ask them, tell me what you think about watercress. And I'd say 9 out of 10 people are like, water what? What? Is that like the Chinese food? And then what did you say? Is it soup?
I don't even remember.
Beans,
the spring mix. I said this. Is that in the spring mix?
That's right. Yeah, the guy before you said, "Is it soup?" But yeah, Noel called it soup. So we ask irreverent questions, we ask bad jokes, but we also get really deep and emotional, and we talk about the issues that people are facing and how they've dealt with them, how they cope with them, how do they move forward and keep living their best life. And that's been the biggest thing, is just that we're able to spread positivity and hope, and that's really our message. Is just you're running for your life, you keep moving forward, you're running for your health, your mental health, your fitness, to be a good example to those around you, and we just really hit it off. She's fantastic, and I'm really honored to do it together with her. She's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, me included, use running sort of, in part as a coping mechanism to sort of deal with whatever's they got going on in their lives, and it's. It's almost like sometimes I wonder if the harder my life is in general, the better runner I am, because I can keep more focused on it. It's like alone time. It's like time with your own thoughts that you can kind of work through whatever's going on. And right. So you probably have an endless supply of guests, because I think all of us runners kind of have that one. It's a place. Running's a lonely sport at times, and it's a place where you can kind of just spend some time alone with your thoughts and think about that. So I'm sure you're finding out a lot about that with all these guests you have coming on.
A lot of people do seem to be independent runners, and I'm actually just the opposite. I think I'm that weird, 3%. I'm just weird in general, but I think that I'm that 3% that says, unless somebody shows up at my door, basically and handcuffs me to them, I kind of, at this point in my life, I'm like, oh, it's dark and cold, and everybody knows I'm a weather weenie, so I've gotten away from those 4 a.m. runs where it's 30 degrees out for that one day in Phoenix, and I am still, I've been to the gym a couple times last week and walked the dog every day and stuff like that, but I really, for me, Shannon deals with stress by running. Like you said, you go out there, you have your alone time. I'm just the opposite. For me, it was very much a social sport, and that's when I would have all my social activities. So instead of having lunch every day with friends, spending money, eating food I didn't need, I just I would go running with them. And so I do miss that, and I need to get back to it.
Are they still running? I mean, you had a really good group of people, I remember. Like I met a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it was last year at the Phoenix.
Yep.
So we're there. Everybody is still out there running, not as cohesively in the same group every Tuesday and Thursday morning, but we still have groups running together, and I hope to join them again since I'm kind of like the head heifer. I need to be out there with them, but they've been great. I mean, I went through a little bit of a hard time. My Twitter kind of went into some autopilot mode, and just had to deal with my own personal issues for a little bit, and Run Heifer Run kind of. It didn't take a back seat, but it just kind of got neglected a little bit while I focused on my family, my children, and my own mental health, just trying to come back from a divorce and all that stuff. So fortunately, the heifers that are in the group, I mean, this is a group of tenacious people who take no prisoners. And the nice thing is people are constantly messaging me, how are you doing? Why are you not out there running? Stop eating donuts, whatever. And it's been really uplifting to see that what I created from scratch has turned into this kind of this worldwide support network that's still going strong with or without me, because it never was about me. It was always about everybody else, as you know. So that's the best part, is that it's still about everybody else, and we still celebrate everybody's successes. And it's been really humbling just to see that something that I created is continuing forward, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's funny. So we had a long conversation when I was on your podcast, and I was thinking about it today, and for the life of me, I can't remember. I mean, we talked for probably an hour and a half, and maybe 45 minutes was recorded, and the other 45 was just off record, I guess. But so sometimes I'm like, I don't even remember if we talked about this on the podcast or off the podcast. But like I have this sort of like love-hate relationship with social media, which is not probably good for someone who's running a podcast and wants to generate an audience. Because sometimes I just get sick of it's like, I don't know, it feels dirty or something being on social media all the time. Like you're just constantly plugging your stuff, and sometimes I'm like, I need to feel genuine. I need to feel that I'm in the right place. And sometimes you see other people doing some tactics that are a little bit like, I would never do that. Like, that's kind of like greasy or something. I don't know. Slimy, whatever. And every time I wind up coming back to it, what I realize is like for every person that kind of rubs me the wrong way on social media or, says something mean, and I'm like, how could someone like say something like that? Like, it's ridiculous. But for every person like that, there's like 3 or 4 people that I've met that I would have never met had it not been for Ordinary Marathoner and the internet. I mean, I never would have met you. We mentioned Debbie early in the before the show. She's one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life. So it's just, these are people that I would never have met otherwise. So you kind of have that. It's sort of like a necessary evil, I guess, with running some kind of like social media type business, like a Run Heifer Run group or your podcast. And but in the end, especially you said you took a little bit of a hiatus from it. Like you realize who the genuine people are, because they're going to stick with you, and they're going to stay with you through. You're going through if you went through difficult times, and and then there are people who are going to say, oh well, she doesn't like my posts anymore, or she doesn't retweet me anymore, so I'm just going to show her. And it's a good, so it's a good filter. You filter out those kinds of people, and I find that you wind up keeping the genuine ones,
Well, and you know what? That's very, very true. Not just even in social media, but in life too. I mean, you're divorced. You went through that, and you learn. It's interesting because you learn who your true friends are, and people say, "Oh yeah, you're still part of the family," and then they never call you again, or like just different things. And it's really sad on social media too. Though I've had, thankfully, I did lose a couple followers, I think, but people that they weren't actively engaged or actively authentic, as you know from my Twitter feed. I mean, if nothing else, I'm authentic and I tell people how I really feel. If there's a product I like, I'll talk about the product if I like the people behind the product. And I don't just go out there and whore myself out and say, oh, well, today Dove Soap sent me this amazing bar of Dove Soap, and I thought it was white chocolate, so I ate it. No, I tried that one time. It was like a square bar. It was that. You know what it was? Is that caffeinated soap somebody sent me, and my kids had taken it out of the tin, and I thought it was like this big white chocolate. I'm like, my kids are so good to me, but it smells funny. But let me eat it, and then I took a big bite out of it. I was like, this is not chocolate. This is soap.
That's so con.
It's disgusting too, but it's very caffeinated for like 12 hours anyway. So it's very productive.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting concept too, caffeinated soap. But anyway, most of the people have been so genuinely supportive. Corey is one of them out there. He just started his own. I think it's called the Dad Bod. But talk about just an absolute inspiration. Just people reaching out to me saying, you know what, I've noticed your Twitter has changed. You know, what's going on? Are you okay? What can I do to help you? Do you need a hug? Like what? People have just been so kind. Elizabeth Bain is another one. She's just out there doing her thing.
I haven't heard from her in a long time, but she's one of those people that I really, it's like I see her pop up on my Facebook feed. I'm like, oh, I'm glad she's doing well. Glad she's,
Yeah, she sends me Click coffee, which I had never heard of before until she sent it to me, and I put it in a smoothie, and they don't sponsor me to say this, by the way, but I was caffeinated and so happy. I was like, oh my God, it's like protein coffee, and it's really good. I know everybody talks about bulletproof, whatever, and, I've got the vest, but not the coffee, and this Click stuff, but every now and again, completely unannounced, she just sends me this package of goodies and, a nice little card that says, like, thinking of you, and I'm like, who are you, Twitter lady? And I actually met her when she was in town running, I think it was Rock and Roll last year. She and I met up at a sports bar, and we had such a nice time, and just a genuine person. And I have to say, most of the people, I've met so many of my Twitter followers in person now, and it's always been a good experience. There's not one person that I met that I would say like, oh yeah, a total jerk. Nothing. Everybody's just been fantastic.
That's kind of what I'm finding out too. It's just, you wind up, if you take a step back, you wind up missing the people that you really did form good relationships with. So, are you officially back? Is this still, do we have Melissa Kahn back now or what? Is this?
I'm it's the Phoenix uprising again. You know what? It's one of these things where, Run After Run had huge momentum, and we were doing really, really well. We're still doing really well. And during the hard time, everybody knows, I went through a divorce. I came home. It was actually right after I did the triathlon in Nepal. And, the triathlon itself was a huge life challenge for me on so many levels. It was metaphorical. It was physical. It was, I ended up disqualifying myself from the race because the bike course changed. And anybody who followed my journey knew that I was scared of heights. The mountain bike really did a mind blank on me. I'm not going to say the F word. I've reformed, but it really screwed with me. And the night before the triathlon, or the 2 days before, it had huge torrential rains. And the Himalayan mountains don't have storms. They've got like Mac Daddy storms. And what happened was all the leaves had fallen off the trees on the path, and they were these super big, I don't know how to describe them because they're nothing like I've seen in the USA, but huge leaves the size of like two palms put together. They were very slippery, and they then covered the rocks. So you didn't know what you were biking over, and it was slippery. Well, I struggled just biking in the sand here in Phoenix and up a 900-foot mountain, and this was like a 2,000-foot climb. And to be fair, I trained, but I didn't train hard enough, and I was too chicken. At the end of the day, I was too scared. And at the race briefing, they said, well, the bike course now changed from whatever it was. It was a sprint try. So however far it was, they added an extra 3 or 4 miles to it, and it was uphill. And I looked at Debbie, and I busted out into tears, and I was like, I couldn't even do the original one. And now they've added uphill miles. And so even though I rented the bike, the helmet, I was, I had everything ready to go. The nutrition, everything was well planned. Our suitcases were stuffed to the max. The morning of the race, I handed my bike in and said, I am going to choose not to do the bike portion, but I will finish and do the run portion. I know my own limits, and I don't want to die on the side of a mountain just because I was too stubborn to say, I can't do this. It'll be something I regret until the day I die, because there are moments I wake up and say, could I have tried it? Would I have been able to do it? Debbie did it actually, and she kept saying, oh, I'm not a strong swimmer. She was the second woman out of the water. she's like this
so
long,
bashful.
lean. She isn't and humble. She's this long, lean swimming machine. Second woman out of the water after she's like, well, I really didn't train much swimming, and I was like, I hate you. She did the bike, and she got the medal. At the end of the race, they gave me a medal, and I gave it back, and I said, you know what, I did not earn this, and I can't take this because it just wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
And one of the little Nepali men who did it, I say little, he had to be like 4 feet tall. He was probably 70 years old. He came over to me and in very broken English, he said, "You're the American, right?" And I was like, "Oh God, what now?" Like, I'm always like, "Oh, don't ask me about Trump." And he took the medal from around his neck and he gave it to me and he said, "You earned this. This is mine. I want you to have it." And I was just reduced to blubbering tears. And I just thought, are you kidding me? These are some of the kindest people, and I don't know how he knew who I was. And I was the only one who they don't time things in Nepal. They have a spiral notebook, and they just kind of look at the clock on their wrist as you cross the line. And,
right.
So it's done. It's a developing third world country, to be fair. And so my name had a big rectangle around it with like a red X through it. I was the only one who disqualified from the whole race.
How many people were at the race? It wasn't that big, was it?
It was about 100 people.
Okay. But it's not like it wasn't like 5,000 people and you're the only one.
No. Yeah, I think, to be fair, this was the only place in Nepal that had electricity that day too. So, and my entire race, what I did, the portions I did do, the swim, which was way longer than a sprint swim usually, everyone agrees to that. I was powered by those candies, those little runts, those hard candies that are supposed to taste like fruit.
Yeah.
They don't.
That was your nutrition?
That was my nutrition. I had been doing really well, but we got the Nepal funk. We ended up eating some boiling rice, and then with the fear of TMI, we were all pooping water for like 3 weeks. So all I was able to eat was runts. And they didn't make me sick. So I had the runts and I did the swim and I did the run and I finished, but I just didn't do the bike portion, and I'll regret that forever. But I did the best I could, so it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You went out there. I mean, I give you credit for having the guts to think of even doing a triathlon in Nepal like that. I don't even like. I'm like driving to Lake Placid 5 hours, and I'm like, why am I doing this shit?
Yeah. Well,
you went to Nepal.
I was sponsored by Aftershocks. I'm still a huge fan of Aftershocks. The headphones, and they believed in me, and it was a very humbling experience. The world was watching. We had a lot of momentum going, and I did feel that I let a lot of people down. I made a huge blog post about it. I mean, you needed like 6 months to read through it.
I'm still going through it, actually.
I know. Later, like
I'm waiting for the paperback.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? I'm really glad to have had that experience. And what happened was when I came home, that's when I had decided I was trying to wait. My marriage was in disrepair for a good 10 years, and I just was in denial. And I knew it was on my way out, and I was originally planning to save the destruction of the family until school got out. But I just knew I couldn't keep up the facade, and doing the triathlon just kind of showed me, well, look, if I can get through this, I just need to do what I need to do and get on with life. And it was very regretful time. Regretful might not be the right word. It's a very hard time.
It's hard to describe, it's really. I mean, I've been through it too. So it's one of those things where you're doing a good job describing it, but you also, there's so many details that nobody ever will know. And nobody should know except you and your husband and your family.
Yeah.
And it changes you, and it changes your environment.
Everything. Yeah. Your children, and when you have kids involved, I know your daughter was involved, and I have 4 kids, and they're teenagers, and so even in a happy family on a good day, teenagers can be a little bit rough. And so it was with a very heavy heart that I made that decision to kind of speed up that process, but. Fortunately, that's behind me now, and the kids are well adjusted, for the most part. They're still teenagers, but they're doing okay. And as a matter of fact, my second son today just passed his driver's license test.
Wow.
So I'm pretty excited for him. A little bit scared for the rest of the driving world, but so things are on the upswing. So yeah, I'd say I'm back. I'm slowly making an uprising. We are currently looking for sponsors for the Run for Your Life podcast. We have 2, but we're looking for more. We're hoping to aim at a 25,000 person audience and just get those download numbers up. We've done really well so far. My buddy Bart Yasso, he's like my BFF. He came on. He was one of our first guests. He said, "Oh my gosh, definitely let me be on." And he's such a genuine guy. And back to the running community, it's just it's for me. I've chosen to ignore the haters, if you will, the people who, there are a couple people who are just a little bit negative sometimes. Delete them, block them, whatever, move on. There's so many good people out there that are encouraging and uplifting. Those are the people that listen to the podcast, that join in the conversations, that encourage each other. And what an honor to be involved in something like that. Just great.
No,
so
you
exciting.
glossed over this very quickly, and I'm gonna touch on it because it might be just my own personal mental issue, and it just occurred to me like maybe it would make a good podcast topic, I guess. Is so we're both similar in the fact that we have these online groups, and you know, you have people that you like, people that you learn to learn, you know, you learn to get to know. And every once in a while, someone kind of leaves your group, or you try to go message them, and all of a sudden they're not Facebook friends with you anymore, or they're not, you know, and you're like, what did I ever do to them? Do you ever have those moments? And like you just said, like you just block them or you put them out of your head. But sometimes I find it hard. Do you ever dwell on stuff like that, like me, or is it just me?
I think that's actually just you. That's one of your traits. I think you're a little bit more sensitive than I am to things like that. I'm kind of like and
I try not to let it bother me. I try. I'm like, but it sticks in me, and I'm like, oh, I'm so mad. Like what? What did I do to you?
Yeah, this was. You know what? This was just, it's kind of a numbers game. My group has almost 2,500 people in it, and we did lose a bunch when I stopped actively engaging. I would ask questions every single day of the group and get involved. And I needed to turn the focus inwards to myself and my children in order to just make our new life transition smoother. And so I did notice that the numbers would go down, but honestly, I don't know exactly who left. I know a couple of the people who left, but to be fair, the people that were actively engaged, that were getting what they needed to out of the community, they've all stayed. And I can't identify by name, you know, who left.
Yeah, you can't always. It's just, you know what happens is like you know, there's someone you remember, and you're like, oh, let me get in touch with that person, and you click on them, and they're not there anymore, and it's like,
and you know, people's needs change too. And what I've learned through a lot of this is you can't judge. You don't know, you know, even though we're all fighting a battle, you don't know, maybe these other people are fighting battles too. And maybe something that somebody said in the group put them off, and they didn't have the ability to see past that. Maybe they felt they weren't getting the attention they needed. Some people, what I do notice is, especially in Facebook, they post the exact same post to 14 different running groups. I'm like, all right, I saw this one. Like, you know,
I mean, there's no crime in that. I get what you know, it's fine. They're in a bunch of different groups, and they used to do it with my group and your group too. I mean,
yeah, definitely. And I don't mind those people because I'm like, hey, celebrate your success in every group you
wherever
can.
You want. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I do it different. Like I try and keep my posts different just because I bore my own self, you know, and I'm like, I must bore everybody else too. But, you know, everybody gets something different out of the group. I guess my point is that if they're not getting what they need out of it and they feel that they need to leave, I'd rather that they leave instead of stay and then come to resent the fact that, like, oh my God, Run Heifer Run is up in my feed again.
Right.
I don't want anybody to
I can't stand. All right. It's like just. Yeah.
So I don't focus on that. I try and focus on keeping the positivity flowing. And even though I was and still am, you know, going through a little bit of that stuff, it's one of those things where, you know, you just try and keep it positive. And every day, you know, I'm learning everyday lessons and, you know, living in the moment. And instead of worrying about and not so much like worrying about the future, but just worrying about things I can't control, it's easier to stay positive that way. And just try and live in the moment, have a little bit more patience and understanding and kindness towards people. It's been a rough lesson for me. I mean, really, but to give people the grace that a lot of people who I thought were my friends did not give me. And they said, oh, you know, you became very self-insulated and very selfish, and you never asked me how I was doing. Well, yeah, that's very true. I own that completely. But I was also going through the roughest thing that I'd ever done in my life, and I needed to retreat inside of myself.
And to be fair, if you haven't gone through it, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand why that might happen. It's almost like, and you know, especially like a thing like divorce, that's almost like so prevalent these days. Like, you know, people just expect you to have gone through it and just be you the whole entire time, when in fact it can be painful, you know.
Oh, definitely. And you know, again, that's what you said, like you learn who your true friends are. But I will tell you, the people that you retain through that, boy, you know, it turns into one of these where they become your family. And, you know, unfortunately, I watched several of my friends follow suit when I filed for divorce. for whatever reason, they said, you gave me courage because here you are, you know, you don't have a job, you have 4 kids, and you filed for divorce. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. Yeah. You know, and they said, well, you gave me the courage because I see you going through it. And there were days where I just, you know, didn't want to get out of bed. There were days where I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to do anything, but you have to put one foot in front of the other, and you learn who your tribe is. And that's been the beautiful thing about social media. I've learned even through social media on the internet. Thank you, Al Gore. That there are people that stay true to your friendship, and those people become priceless, and they become like Debbie. I mean, we became really good friends through all this, and she when she goes through a tough day or whatever, I'm always the first one to call her and say, hey, go get some nachos from Taco Bell. Just get some natural food. You know, I think all their food is organic. So, you know, I'm always there to encourage her the way she does to me. And it's people like her who just make the internet a better place. And she does not pay me to even say that.
Yeah, you know, and the one thing I did want to say too is that, you know, I mentioned obviously people leaving your group and stuff. Sometimes people, you know, they have issues with Facebook in general. They have issues with, you know, and they decide to leave Facebook, and it looks like, or they just decide to, I'm going to be out of, you know, I need to get out of this space for a while because they have their own thing going on, and you never know what other people are going through. And so, you know, I feel like for me at least, like that's anyone who leaves my group, I always try to think maybe they're going through something that I don't understand, or they don't, you know, I don't, you know, and that's sort of the way I deal with it. They must like me. They must like me.
They like you. No, they do like you.
It's
you know
not me. It's them.
Yeah. You know, but you're genuine and authentic at what you post, and what I like about you, and what I liked about you from the very beginning actually was just that you're real. You know, you're like, God, today sucked. I couldn't get my mojo. Or, you know, like, you know, you're very self-deprecating. So you're like, oh, look at my receding hairline, and, you know, and stuff like that. You posted.
It is going back. You know what? This is what someone told me. So we're watching videos. So Stephanie's been more and more active lately and trying to get involved.
Oh, she's doing great.
And so we're home the other day because I'm not working and whatever, and she was on maternity leave. And so we're watching like videos on the proper way to like shoot angles for video and stuff like this. And the guy's like, oh, you're always going to look a little bit better if the camera is coming down at you. So you put the camera up, you know.
Yeah, because you don't have you know, I was a photographer for 20 years.
Oh, there you go. So is that, I mean, I should have asked you.
Well, yeah, because, you know, when you're shooting straight on, you've got the widest part of your body. So if you're at all self-conscious, and I don't want to expose you, I know sometimes you do feel self-conscious, but you're slimming down now, but in your chubbier days.
No, it's true. It's true. You should see the pictures of me at Ironman Lake Placid last year in my wetsuit. Oh, it's like...
I saw him. You're still my favorite. But, you know, the thing is, so if you shoot down, you know, you have a better angle in terms of, you know, if you're worried about a double chin or whatever. Also, you shoot at a slight angle, just a slight angle, because when anything you shoot straight on, you're going to get the widest view. Yeah. So if I'm standing square in front of you,
yeah,
I look wider than if I turn my legs to the right and turn my upper half back. I'm going to have a more of an S curve, is what they call it in photography. And you want that S curve because it gives a little bit of dimension and a little bit of a visual illusion, if you will, that there's just more curves and less, you know, less of a wide angle.
Right. So I took that advice, and one of the things I normally run on the treadmill. And so one of the things I do is I take a picture of the treadmill when I'm done, and then I post it on the page. Not all the time, but some of the times I'm like, you know, this is just an ugly picture. Like, I need to be a little bit more personable, you know. So I snapped a picture of myself, and I remembered the advice that we heard on YouTube. So I put the camera up in the air, and I snapped like a down vision of me, and I'm like, and when the picture came out, I'm like, oh my God, this giant semicircle forming on my forehead.
You're like, wait, look, yeah.
And and then immediately, you know, I start to like mentally picture like when it happens on both sides and they connect at the top, and then you have the little island of hair, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like already planning on having to like shave my whole head. I'm really not this vain, but
you know what you could do? You could wear a ball cap and just be like, become the ball cap guy. You know, like
I don't want to be the ball cap guy. That, you know what? I think when you're in your 40s, and apologies to all ball cap guys, but I feel like when you're in your 40s and 50s, like it's just a telltale sign of someone who's just trying way too hard to look way more younger than he really is.
What about remember Dr. Dworkis, the hair club for men? Remember those commercials? I'm Dr. Dworkis.
Or that, you remember that spray hair?
Oh God, I think you know what?
This would work perfectly for me right here.
It could. You know what? What also you could use is makeup. What I saw at Great Clips, I took one of my kids, and yes, I'm that cheap, but I took one of my sons. It was like to Great Clips, and they have this powder now that you like brush onto your head the same color as your hair. So if you have a bald spot, people can't tell. And I thought that is freaking brilliant marketing right there.
Do you have your video on right now? Can you see me?
I can see you. Yeah, you can't see me.
I can't see you. No, all right. I didn't know. I just wanted to make sure before I picked my nose. That actually wasn't the case. I mean, come on. This is. Yes, it was. You wouldn't call this gray, would you?
I would call it graying.
Gray.
Like
I like graying. I can deal with that. You know,
No, it's like
I've been fighting. I've been fighting for salt and pepper. But yeah, you know what happens is it grows in and it looks even more gray, and then it just really looks silvery. I guess I should just be happy. I don't know.
You just be the silver fox. Just be happy you have hair. I think they call Anderson Cooper the silver fox.
Yeah, I don't want to be that. Yeah, I don't know. But every time I cut it short, it looks a little bit less gray, and then it grows back in. It looks more gray.
And let's talk about why. You have a newborn baby who's absolutely beautiful.
Tell us
about her.
Oh, she's wonderful. I love when you flip it around on me.
Yeah, we did that. It's subtle, but I'm coming back.
No, it's good. Ellie's doing great. She's a little over 2 months now.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Thank God she looks like her mother.
A lot of people say she looks like me, which shocking. Too bad. Well, you know. One of the interesting stories, which Stephanie is going to destroy me for telling you this story, was before we knew she was pregnant. She went out with a friend of hers, and they had it was like margarita night at some place. She had like a couple margaritas, and she came home. And then we found out like the week after that she was pregnant. So it was like, oh my God, you had the margaritas! Like, oh my God, like this is horrible. So when the baby was born, we think that she like has two different ears, and that her left ear is Stephanie's ear, and her right ear is my ear. So
cool.
So I call the left ear the margarita ear, because I feel like that's what probably made the difference in the womb somewhere as the ears were being formed. The margarita kind of clashed with the symmetry line. Do you like that
That's
theory?
Great.
I don't know. I'm going with it. It's the margarita ear.
You know what? And that's okay. To be fair, I read that in those early days of development that if you have a couple drinks, it's not going to hurt anything. I think it's when you're in the second and third trimester and you're going through a 6-pack a night. That's where the problems occur.
Yeah. But yeah, no, she was good. She was good after that.
Is she sleeping through the night for you? I mean, is she?
The baby sleeps like it's a dream. It's a dream come
Really?
true. Yeah, we put her to bed I think at 9:30 last night, and she slept probably till 8 this morning.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't even think she's supposed to sleep that long, but I'm 44.
Is she breastfeeding?
She can sleep. Yes. She's pumping, so she's drinking breast milk. She's just not always breastfeeding. Sometimes yes.
That's some seriously jam-packed breast milk. Go, Stephanie. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, geez, I feel like if I'm sleepy at night and I'm having trouble go to sleep, I could just go in the fridge. And
there you go. Yeah. That is really disgusting, and I feel awkward now.
I only use it for coffee.
Just 1 or 2 squirts. It's all good. Okay, that's
queen bean coffee too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I use her coffee in my Keurig machine. Yeah, I had to jailbreak it to use it, and she still has the best coffee in the world. I
agree. I agree. And I was fine. I spared you. So I used to just do the intro. I don't know if you remember, but when I had you on the podcast before, I would record the whole thing straight through. But now I pre-record the intro. So she's the sponsor. So the way I have run my podcast now is that I had tried to do one sponsor per episode, and so she was the sponsor for this one. And
I love the call.
And the thing is, she is. She's wonderful. And I'm kind of like I'm not a Dunkin' person, but I go to Dunkin' every day, and it's part of my routine of getting up early. And I have to get out of the house. You know what it is? That's what it is. I have to get up and move and get out of the house. So I go to Dunkin' and get a coffee, and whatever. But at home, it's just all I have is the queen bean stuff.
No, her stuff is great. And not only is her coffee great, but it's actually made up in New England, and I had the absolute pleasure of meeting her, and she's beautiful inside and out. I mean, she's one of these people that you could sit with and chat with her all night long and still feel like you didn't get to say everything you wanted to say. Like she's just such a good person, and she went out there and just decided to go live her dream, and she's in France now, and
Jeez.
she's such a cool person, and has a nice legacy with the Queen Bean Coffee Company, and I just think, man, she's just top notch, and just another great example of how social media connects the good people with the good people. I mean, I'm just so thankful, to have met her, and I just love her to death.
Yeah. So how's the running going for you lately?
Well, I did go to the gym 3 times. I think it was last week or the week before. So I did good there. I did hike up a mountain on the 19th, and that was pretty cool. It was 2,230 feet.
Wow.
It did hurt. It was a lot of feet. And I have to say, my son chose the path, and it was the same path I'd climbed, but from a different direction.
Uh-huh.
And this different direction just seemed to be a lot more difficult. And I have arthritis in my knees, and I could whine all day. But I did get to the top, and it was well worth it. And getting down was hard. I'm afraid of heights, and some of these rocks, like I had to get down and like sit down, and I was like, oh dear God, please don't let my pants rip, and then my ass be exposed to the whole world, But the running needs to come back. I have got to get back to regular running. I've done a couple runs, but I can definitely tell I'm not in the shape that I should be, and that bothers me. It doesn't bother me enough to get back out there running, to be seen, but I'm working on it. And I have people, from my Heifer group that live here locally, and I send these text messages every day to my group. So if you want them you're in the U.S., you can text the word run to 99888, and then every day I send these inspirational messages at noon, and she sends them back to me, and then she puts bitch. Says, when are we running?
That's like your real friend, right? Like,
yeah,
that's how you know they're a real friend.
No, I literally just got one in the mail, or in my text. It says, believe you can, and you're halfway there, or should I say, halfway there? Get it? Calf, half, they're really bad evidently, so maybe you don't want to sign up for my list. But anyway, so she sends it back to me and encourages me all the time, and she's like, look, we got to get back to it. And we will get back to it. It's one of these things where I've just had to give myself a little bit of grace to say, you know what, it's been a rough year, but things are looking up, and I will get back to it. I miss the discipline. I miss the complaining about it at 4 a.m. And I miss the camaraderie of that social network, just running with people and doing things. But it will come back, and I still celebrate everybody's success. I see Jeff Fleming, Run Dem Trails. He went out. And I'm sorry, I just said his last name. I don't know if he wanted that out there, but he goes out, he runs 100 miles for fun, and he doesn't lose toenails. And he's like, yeah, I had a steak afterwards. It was cool. And I look at him and I'm like, you're a rock star.
Wow.
Like, you're a legend, and he doesn't think it's any big deal. He's like, yeah, I'm just doing what I do. And people like that inspire me. I'm like, well, if he can go out and just say, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to go do 50 miles in the woods, and then I'm like, well, at least I could do is put this donut down,
I remember you were like self-capped out at a half marathon. Is that still the hard and fast rule, or you ever now think? I mean, because the divorce things changes you, and now you're coming back at it, and now do you ever think, maybe I should just get this thing done? You got to check that box.
Well, the box, here's the deal. There's only, I will say this with love to all of the important people in my life. There are 2 men that I would commit 26.2 to. That's
you don't have to do it for me. You don't have to do it for me.
Okay. Well,
One.
So there's 2. So there were 3, but now there's 2. And Bart Yasso, my buddy Bart, he told me, he said, I will run it with you by your side.
There you go.
Now, poor Bart Yasso will be walking it because that's my pace. But
make him do it twice.
Yeah, and he's battled some health issues recently, and he's got this super hot girlfriend, and he's living life. He's retired, and I'm so proud of him. I mean, just what a great guy. I just love him to death. And I know the whole world loves him to death, but I call him my buddy Bart. We go way back, and I said to him, if you do it with me, I'll do it. And then Ray Magana. Ray waited for me at the Atlanta 10K, that Peachtree, like the what is it, the USA's biggest road race, whatever.
Yep.
He was in a corral that was like 30 corrals behind me, had 3 pieces of pizza and 2 beers, and still caught up to me and said no, he gave me my own line back. He said, no heifer left behind. He ran the last mile in with me, and this was like the hottest day on record in Atlanta, 700% humidity. It was disgusting. And he gave me the biggest full body hug, and I felt gross, really, to be fair. Both of us were so sweaty and wet, it was vile. And I would run a 26.2 if he would do it with me. But those are the only 2 people, because they've had such an impact. They don't realize just on when you run, you want to run with people who make you feel that good, people who make you want to go far. And my running friends here do, but they all give in when I say, just screw it, let's go to Starbucks. They're like, oh yeah, let's get a latte. And these are 2 people that would be like, shut up and keep going. And
I would say this is an improvement, because last time when I talked to you, you were like, there's no way I'm doing it. There's no way I'll ever do it. I'm stuck at a half. I'm never going to do more than a half. You were pretty adamant, but this is progress. This is progress. It's mentally too. I keep thinking, do I make another kamikaze attempt at something absolutely stupid and get sponsored and go do something, like that crazy Nepal triathlon, which, I later found out was that they called it like an adventure warrior or a warrior adventure. And I'm like, I'm not a warrior. Sure.
I don't even like adventure. Like my idea of fun is playing Scrabble on my phone. So, I don't know is the answer. I mean, if there's, if I can get somebody to sponsor me to do something crazy again, I might do it, but I did give it some thought, because it took a lot. I mean, it took a good solid 8 months of, I was swimming, biking, running every day. I was facing fears. That bike really just messed me up.
Yeah, it sounds like, I think your downfall was just that, that mountain biking kind of course. If you would have had a road course, I think you would have been much better off, at least,
definitely.
I've never, I can't even compare, because I've never really been mountain biking, but, when I think, all right, you trained for the swim, you had the swim, you could have walked the run if you absolutely had to. And I think it was up the side of a mountain, I think, too, wasn't it? I remember you telling me stories about climbing.
Yeah, it was up the side of this is the Himalayas, so it's not,
it's not flat.
Yeah.
But I think you would have been, just that the bicycle, the mountain biking thing with throwing the rain and the elevation on the bike, and I remember they had advertisements for that race where they just show a section of the race where people were just pushing their bike up the hill, and it's like,
and they were like athletic people too.
I'm the most, it's like, this is what they do.
Not athletic person, yeah.
So I mean, I'm not trying to give you excuses or anything. I just think that you took on a big challenge, and when when you're mountain biking out near you in Phoenix, and there's not rain, and there's not a monsoon, it's a little bit different than going to Nepal, and you
can't simulate the Himalayas, that's for sure. And the mountains did unleash fury the night before the race. I mean, I've never, Debbie would
that was just from the runts. That was just from the
Yeah, they were good though. We ordered room service. Cows are sacred in Nepal, and so they don't kill them. And I don't know how we ended up, but I ordered a Philly cheesesteak to my room because we stayed at like a Radisson, and we got it. I couldn't even chew the meat. I mean, I don't know where this cow came from, but it was an ancient cow, and I couldn't even eat it. I was like, oh my God, why did I order steak in a country that doesn't kill cows? Bad idea, Con, but not my first bad idea ever. And we lived to tell about it. The flight over there was 48 hours, to give you an idea. It took 48 travel hours to get there, and we had an emergency landing in India, but nobody spoke English, so we didn't know why. I was auctioning off my bottle of Diet Coke because the flight attendants had none left. I mean, it was absolutely just crazy. And Debbie and I, we called each other Thelma and Louise, and we look back and we're like, did that even happen? Like, were we even there? It's so surreal. But you're right. The mountain up, the run part of the mountain was, it was treacherous. My brother Adam came with too, and he literally pulled me up the mountain. I was having a nervous breakdown as you're climbing this mountain, the path was not evident because of the rain. Everything was covered and very slippery.
Now, he didn't compete. He was just there to kind of support.
He was in khaki shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. He's not an athlete. He's in shape, but he's not an athletic person at all. And
he just knew you too well. He's like, I gotta go and drag this woman up the hill.
Watch her. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, he jumped in the swim because he's not familiar so much with triathlon, and I think that he saw me. I grabbed onto the side of a buoy to catch my breath. Also, we were a little bit higher altitude, so the oxygen. Now Debbie lives in Denver, so she was breathing thick air. For me, I was like, I can't breathe. Adam saw me holding onto the kayak, and I think he thought I was about to drown. He strips naked, gets in the water, and I hear from the left ear, like, come on, Melissa, we got this. And I'm like, why is there a white Sasquatch floating in the water calling my name? I was like, oh my God, that's my brother. He didn't pay to do the triathlon. He's like, what are they going to do, arrest me? This is Nepal.
You don't want to be in a Nepalese jail, I don't think.
No. Yeah, not
I think
so
they make
much.
TV shows about that.
Yeah, they eat A&E. That's a good series. A&E. Anyway, he jumped in the water and he swam the whole thing with me with no training. Got back out of the water, puts his clothes back on, his flip flops, and he's going up the mountain with me. And he's quite literally, he's 6'2", maybe 230. He's pulling me up the mountain, and he's like, you know, because what happens is that the path was not identifiable after the rain. And he's like, Missy, you have to look for the path. And I'm looking at him and I'm hyperventilating and I'm like, I don't see the damn path. And so he went ahead of me and gave me his arm and pulled me up the mountain, literally. And without him having done that, I would have turned around. I had a massive emotional breakdown. It was just such a rough thing for me to do, being scared of heights. You look to the right, and there's no fence. You would actually fall off the mountain and you would die. I mean, it wasn't like cactus and rocks like Phoenix, but you were going to fall off this foothill, and it was huge. And so I don't know the people who do this for fun, but I will not be doing that ever again. Definitely not. You know, it's true with all things in life. You know, you do hard things, you get through them, and you look back and then you learn. And that's really all any of us can do, right? I mean, and that's why running is such a great metaphor. You know, we make mistakes, we get injured, we learn what not to do, what works for us, and then we keep going forward. That's all we can do.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think, I don't know, I see the comeback formulating in my mind. I see the 5K, I see the 10K, I see the half, I see the half. Yeah, I hear the Rocky music playing in the background. And,
there is a friend of mine that said
Ray Magana wearing a Superman cape.
I could be Wonder Woman. It could be really cool. There's one person that said to me, half Ironman Phoenix 2020, and there was just a little twinge. I don't, you know what? When you send me the link, his name is Terry, and Terry knows who Terry is, and he said to me, maybe I'll come to Phoenix, and I will say this. Because he'll be flying from a very, very far way away. If Terry commits and signs up to do 2020 half Ironman Phoenix and things go as planned, I said I'll train and I'll swim in that nasty lake that's full of dead bodies, and I'll do it. I would say do it with him. He's already an Ironman, so he'll finish hours before me. But if Mike Riley calls me, Mike Riley called me one time. And he's like, I'm not doing the Himalayan race, but I'll call you and tell you are a triathlete. And, he's a great guy. He planked with me. I love Mikey.
I remember that picture.
So if he would announce me, and if Terry would do it, maybe I would do a half Ironman. But
I got to tell you, I think versus a marathon, and I think you had like. You had trouble with was it your knee, or there was some kind of like injury reason why you didn't want to try the full? Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I do have, having been morbidly obese basically my whole life. I essentially, my knees are shot, everything hurts and I'm dying all the time. My body is really made for couch surfing and Oprah and bonbons. It's not made to get out there and run. And I fight for every step, to be fair. I mean, I'm not quick. I'm a back of the pack runner. I find amazing stories. I always like to make the joke. There's so many veterans out there who were injured in different wars who have no legs. They've got these titanium legs. They beat me. I do think they have an unfair advantage because that titanium is really springy. They beat me. Like 87-year-olds with ovarian cancer that just had chemo yesterday. They beat me. Everybody beats me. People say, well, what was your time? I don't know my time. It was after the polka band went home, I don't know.
But I'm just wondering if because of sort of that injury history or that history that you have, if it might even be easier for you to finish like a half iron as opposed to a full marathon.
It could be. It could be because the biking obviously is a little bit easier.
But it's less taxing and I got to tell you, I've embraced triathlon over the last year, and the training is way better, at least for me.
The bricks got me. I mean, I got off the bike and I'm like, I got to do what?
Yeah, you gotta worry about that. It takes like a mile to kind of get used back into, you walk a little, you'll be all right.
My legs were like jello in my first brick, and I quit. Like I was 10 minutes in, I'm like, screw this, I'm having a bagel.
It's like lower back and your butt hurts from the bike seat and you just...
Yeah, your legs feel like noodles and you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? But, the swim, I used to hate the swim the most, and then it came that the swim was actually the least of the issues. I got a great tri-coach who helped me with my form and just different tips. And but, swimming in rough water made me very nauseous. My first triathlon I did in Lake Havasu, and I was like vomiting in a bucket for 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, you need IV fluids. You're going to the med tent. I'm like, no, I have to get on the bike and finish this crap. And I did. And so it would take a lot of training, but maybe, if someone decides, I might ask for sponsorship, and, I could be the comeback kid, and, but
it's all, and you got work to do. You got work to do.
God. I got a lot of work to do on so many different levels, and but it's all good stuff. I mean, you know what? Everything now is back on, like you said. I'm coming back, and I'd like to come back strong and hard, and Run Heifer Run is kind of like on that precipice where it's ready to explode, and we just had to make that happen. And the podcast is certainly helping, and I appreciate you having me back on. And we're looking for different sponsors and different people to partner with that make sense. People who serve the same demographic that we do, and that's all athletes, people who want to better themselves, even recovering addicts, people who are going through addiction, people who are trying to better themselves. That's really who we're trying to reach between Run for Your Life podcast and Run Heifer Run, and you reach out to those people as well. So I have to say, hats off to you. You downplay it a lot, but you do a lot of great things, raising money for different funds, and you just don't get this on tape, but you're just kind of a good guy. You're just a good guy. You big love.
If this was a video podcast, you could see me blushing.
I know. I saw a tear. I do see you crying. So.
Now, any plans? I feel like we've been talking for like an hour. I should wrap it up. But any plans to bring back the Million Moo March?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be marching soon. I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I had, like I said, I was kind of going through a hard time, and I couldn't put all my focus into it, and I knew it would be one of these like half-assed kind of deals, and I just didn't want to do it halfway. So I do see a resurgence for the Million Moo March. I've had so many people reach out and say, because that happened before the Ordinary Marathon, which you and I did together the first year, and we had such a positive response and such a good synergy. So I do see it coming back bigger, stronger, better, and with an even broader reach. I know it was worldwide, and it will maintain that worldwide status, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm hoping that after the Ordinary Marathon wraps up, we can look into it, and then maybe in the fall, do kind of like an October. I'm not even sure what charity. Maybe we'll do breast cancer. Maybe we'll do Make-A-Wish. Maybe we'll do, I don't even know. There's so many different options, but I think we have the opportunity to raise awareness and raise funds with the profits going somewhere decent. So we'll just see what happens, but I do see a resurgence. So it will be back. It will be bigger, better, and we won't have orange shirts. So just saying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think it will come back strong, and I'm excited about that. One thing at a time, and baby steps. But we're definitely coming back, and I'm just really grateful to all the friends that kind of stuck by me, and the people that I didn't even know paid attention, that do pay attention when they say it.
I tell you too, it's nice to hear. It's not only nice to hear your voice, but it's nice to hear. It's like you're on a better path. I think it's. I think for a while there it was, how can I even talk to Melissa? Like I can't even get a hold of her. I can't even, and then now you have all these things going on again, and you have bright future. It sounds like you're you're planning bigger and better things, and that's kind of the Melissa I remember.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's the Melissa that's true to the inside of me, and it's just anybody who's gone through it can understand. People who haven't gone through it can empathize as best they can, but until you go through it, you just, and I was guilty of that as well, judging having not had the experience, and whether you think you can understand or not until you've been there and done that. You and I talked about it. I told you what was going to happen before it happened, and you're like, it's not going to go as easy as you think it is, and I was like, oh man, no, this is going to be okay. And I was like, oh man, he was right. This sucks. But I've been blessed along the way with people that I didn't know cared, that just stepped up and said, I care, and how can I help you? And it's just in so many different ways, and I've tried to pay that forward in any way I can to anybody who's struggling. And we did a lend a helping hoof campaign, and then I got pinged by Facebook because it was like a raffle thing where people bought their way into a chance to win a prize, and I got in trouble with Facebook. Basically, that's considered gambling, evidently.
Really?
And they frown on that. So we kind of trying to rethink that and how we can help the general public still in a way that's not against the rules, if you will, even though we did what we said we were going to do, but we can't quite do it the exact same way again. So looking into different ways to helping other people still, and lend a helping hoof, and people that were kind to me. We're still looking for ways to pay that forward to the general public. I mean, and the Million Moon March, we might pick one person, say, send in your story, and tell us why you need this, like they do at Christmas time all over the radios, like just
yeah.
Who knows, but bigger and better things are coming. And stay tuned, watch Run Heifer Run. It's Melissa Kahn 7 on Twitter, and join a Run Heifer Run Facebook group.
K-A-H-N, not K-A-H, right? K-A-H.
Yeah, it's K-A-H-N. Yeah, K-A-H-N. Yeah, I think, right?
Yeah,
and I'm not sure anymore, but who am I? So thanks everybody for your support. And Scotty, it's always a pleasure
it's my pleasure to have you on. It's been too long.
Yeah, and let's get back going with our podcast here. I like the mojo. I like the momentum. Let's keep it up.
All right, cool. Well, I'm sure we'll bring you back in the next few months for sure. Absolutely, especially once we get through Ordinary Marathon season, and you guys are a sponsor for that too. I want to thank you for that.
Very, very proud to help out there, and you always raise money for good cause. The SAM Fund is an amazing cause, and I'm just really proud of you for all your efforts. And
you.
Like I said, you do have a heart of gold. You have a heart of service to other people, and it shows. And that's why 7 people really like you.
7 people. I'm up to that.
Yeah,
wow.
7.
I think I got 2 more. Maybe 3 people left. That's what made me so sad. I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for coming on, Melissa. We are going. Geez, yeah. I'm probably going to post this, I think, over the weekend because I want to give you guys a chance to post my podcast first because I feel like it's chronological.
It is chronological. Shannon keeps an order, and so we've got. I wrote it down somewhere. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You're number 5 in line, so you'll be 5 Mondays from now.
Oh wow! So forget. I'm posting this sooner.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We record almost every night because we've got so many people that way we have a queue of people there. If we're unavailable, then we can still post new content.
Yeah.
And we have the next one coming on Monday is a physical therapist, and then we've got Mary from Greasy Girl, who we all love, and then some other stuff. So yeah, you're up there in the queue, and it's going to be great. Your episode was amazing. Yeah. It was huge.
Thanks. So I'm putting this out over the weekend anyway, so you'll have a chance to listen to it. And all right, so let's wrap it up there. And see, you guys have this list of guests, and you're all. I don't even know who I'm going to bring on next. It's like I never know who to plug. I have a little board.
Call me next Tuesday.
I'll call you next week. Be like, hey, you want to be on again? I have a board behind me, and I get a list of like 10 names, and I never. It's like picking one out of the hat, and hope they write me back. And half the time they don't. But that's all right.
You know what? There's so many people. I would just say this.
Yeah.
On your Twitter feed that are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's who inspires everybody. That's where.
That's true.
You know who I would love to get is Kat Laughlin. She out in New York.
I know, she's great.
She's
yeah,
a freaking machine. And what I love about her is she is brutally honest. So she'll go out there and she'll tell you she's having a shit day, or she'll rip you a new one if she thinks she has to. But she is the kindest, most loving person. and she always does it in a way that is authentic and true and straight to the point. And I think I want to have her on mine.
There
I
you
think
go.
it's a
You got to
really
reach out. You got to set that
who
up.
can get her first? Yeah,
Nah,
have to
you
have a
could,
bidding war on her. Like I'll pay her $5.
Nah, I don't want to do that. I don't
No,
know
she's
I don't
great
have
though.
that kind of cash. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, right? Yeah, but I just think there's so many amazing people right there in our own Twitter feeds. So,
Yeah, it's true. That's true. I've never had, like I said, I have a list of like 10 people behind me, and it's just a matter of like picking them out of a hat, which one goes next, and which one kind of fits with what I've been talking about lately. And I try to process these quickly because my fear is that whatever we talk about today, we could be like yesterday's news by tomorrow. Well, it would be yesterday's news by tomorrow, but that's always been my fear. So I'm always like kind of trying to post things pretty quickly. And plus, I always forget what I talked about. I already forgot what I talked about when we did your podcast like 2 days ago.
yeah, I don't even know what day it is, to be fair. I'm like, did I eat breakfast? Am I wearing underwear? I just don't, I really can't think straight lately. So,
That's good.
this
That's
is
good.
life.
All right. So anyway, I'll be back next week. I'll pick one of these guys out of a hat, and we'll make sure to have a better guest than if I was just speak into the microphone by myself. That's for sure. Anyway, until
You
then,
do that a lot.
I do. It's funny. I just look at the wall. I stare and I just talk,
You're
and then I
like,
look down. It's like 20 minutes. I'm like, what did I just talk about?
do you look in the mirror and you're like, you are so good looking?
Wow, you're so interesting.
Exactly. You're good enough. You're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you.
me.
Yeah, because the hair. But anyway,
You got me. It's the salt and pepper. Until next week, always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.